Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Inked Reader. Today I am sort of wrapping up spring in terms of highlights, things I've watched or listened to that I particularly enjoyed. I've done these for winter as well, and I found quite enjoyable as an experience to wrap up and share with you things I've enjoyed during these last 3 months. We are getting into summertime now. Hopefully England will decide that it's actually summer, gives us a bit of hot weather and a bit of sunshine, so I can actually, in the few hours that I've got 3, go out and enjoy a good book in the sun, something like that. I have not watched much, to be fair, overall, just because I'm starting soon a placement, school has been hectic, work as well, and so I find myself some weeks having to go to school and work and do supervision and therapy, and so I ended up being kind of like, in a sense, working like 60 plus hours a week. And so yeah, I don't have much energy at the end of the day, and I really miss reading. I used to do a lot of reading during the day or as soon as I finished work, and nowadays I might find myself reading at night before bedtime just to get some reading in, because maybe I didn't have time from morning when I wake up very early to after dinner time to open up a book or do anything apart from what I need to do. So yeah, it's been a bit difficult morally, I guess, because I do honestly miss reading, and I also feel like I'm reading like a million books and I'm not getting anywhere, I'm not finishing anything. So yeah, but overall, when I looked back at the few things I did enjoy during this season, there were some very good highlights. And I also want to dedicate some time speaking about podcasts, because podcasts have been my best friend in the last year or so since I've started school, because I have to travel a lot for work, so I do spend a lot of time on buses or just walking to get to the place where I need to go. My school is very far as well, so I have to travel to the school and also therapy, and I find myself either listening to an audiobook or listening to a podcast because I get motion sickness, so I can't read or do much else when I'm on the bus, basically. So in terms of books, usually I would mention my favorite book of the season, but because I just filmed my mid-year freak out book tag and all of those books I mentioned there, my favorite ones, I have read in spring, I'm not going to repeat myself. So I'm going to move on to comics, which I did not mention in my mid-year freak out tag. So highlight in comic wise for this season was finishing Hell's Paradise. I really loved how this ended. This is a grim dark 13 volumes long fantasy series, and the plot revolves around this bunch of convicts that get a second chance to life, so they can choose to either be executed or to agree to travel to this island, remote island, that's supposed to hold the elixir to eternal life. Whoever of them can bring back the elixir to the mainland and give it to the royal family, they can have their life spared. The only issue is that no one has ever got back alive from this island. There are like stories and legends about monsters roaming the island, and our convicts go, this bunch of convicts go, and each one of them has a sort of samurai companion that is their guard. So they are each given a convict, and they each have to guard the life of this convict, in the sense of they need to make sure that that convict do not run away or behaves in a way that is somehow illegal, in a sense. So they all travel to this island, the samurai and their convicts companions, and all hell breaks loose on the island. And I think overall the premise remains simple. It's not like a too complex story. However, it has quite a complex magic system when you get to the island and you find out more about this elixir of eternal life, what it is. It is a concept behind everything that's going on that's quite new to me. At times it was a bit confusing just because it uses a lot of terminologies that I wasn't familiar with, yet from the art to these characters, they seeped under my skin, and I ended up being so invested, and I found the ending so satisfactory. I found the build up and the final epic moments that we get at the very end such a satisfying way to conclude, so rewarding in the end. I honestly had shivers when we got to certain scenes in the end. I really, really felt the impact of this series, and so I can't do anything else apart from praise this series and just say, if you like grimdark fantasy and you don't want a series that's too long, because 13 volumes for a manga, I think it's reasonable. Definitely suggest to check this out. And again, this is something that a viewer recommended to me, and I tried it and I fell in love with the series and really, really enjoyed it. So Hell's Paradise, big highlight of the season. Now let's talk about movies, TV shows and stuff like that. I'm gonna just mention a couple of things which I didn't love necessarily, but I didn't also want to completely dismiss. So the first one is Shard Lake. I watched these on Disney. Now the premise of this is quite complex, but I don't know if it's gonna be like more seasons. As of now, I think it's only one season. You can find it on Disney Plus, and it's a basically historical fiction crime mystery when you have to resolve the killing of this political figure in a convent. So someone is sent, couple of people are sent to this convent to investigate what happened, who killed this man, and they need to decide if the convent can stay open or not. And when they get there, there is a lot of political intrigue. I liked the pacing, I liked the actors and the overall mystery, and overall I found it quite okay. I just put it like it would be like out of 5 stars, it would be like a 3.5 stars. So I would probably check out the second season. However, it's not it wasn't my favorite thing. Just want to mention it, but it wasn't too bad if you like crime, historical fiction, crime, stuff like that. And then I also watched The Zone of Interest. This is a movie that received all the buzz, and this is based on a historical figure. So this Nazi commandant who lived with his family right next to Auschwitz. You don't see the concentration camp, so you don't see anything that happens within the concentration camp. You just follow the family, maybe play in the garden, maybe in the house, hearing, smelling things. And it is absolutely like, it's a unique movie that I would definitely recommend everybody to watch. I think it's a very powerful movie. I felt though at times very touched, always in an emotional turmoil while watching this, but I don't know why I didn't end up loving it to bits as other people did. I respect the hell out of this, and I would again suggest it, but I don't know, I wouldn't describe it as the best movie I've seen, and I can't pinpoint exactly why. So I will want to be genuine here and just say I would again give this probably like a 3.5 stars. I don't know what exactly. Maybe I am more reliable on dialogue than I thought I was. This is a movie with very little dialogue, and it's more like a visual and an auditory experience, and I found myself less intrigued by those kind of experiences rather than having actual dialogue in the movies, something that this movie taught me, I guess. But 100% recommended. And so let's go into the things that I actually did enjoy quite a lot. Let's start with something silly now that we talked about a very serious and important movie as The Zone of Interest. Let's talk about The Fall Guy. The Fall Guy is something that I watched in the movie theater, and it was just hilarious. You have Ryan Gosling, he plays the body double of his famous actor, and he is in love with someone who works in the crew, the filming crew, and then there is an accident and he gets injured, so he can't work anymore as a double, and he does break up with his girlfriend, so everything kind of going to shambles. And then you kind of follow him having a second chance at life and his job, redeeming himself in the eyes of his beloved, and so on. And it was just very much on the humoristic side, and it was just a very good time for a couple of hours, and I really enjoyed it. I did rewatch very quickly because I already spoke about this, but I did rewatch Oppenheimer, and I must say that upon rewatch I enjoyed it way more. I was at home and not in a movie theater, so it was way more comfortable, I believe. I also split it in two, so I watched it partly one night and partly another night, and I found that experience of splitting it a bit more manageable because it's a 3 hours movie, and so, you know, holding attention for 3 hours it's a lot, especially because this is a movie based mostly on dialogue, and you jump in time. It's a story of Oppenheimer, the man that led the team that created the first atomic bomb that then was deployed in Japan. And it's a very intense, dense movie that has so much to tell, has so much history within it, and also like a very cool plot, and the way it was created, I really enjoyed it. So I would definitely suggest, if you felt a bit ambivalent about Oppenheimer, to give it another watch, maybe split it, see what you think after. Then I did watch the very popular, all over the place, The Idea of You, and this is not one to say, but I enjoyed this romantic movie. It's a romantic movie. It's about this woman, and she's approaching her 40s, and for a series of events she meets a pop star, and he's very young compared to her, almost 20 years younger than her, but they do fall in love, and it's their story. And I found the way they met very cute. I found, like, she is absolutely stunning. So I did enjoy the dynamics. I did enjoy this movie for what it was. I would probably never rewatch it, to be fair. Like, it's not my general movie I usually watch, but for what it was, I would consider this a guilty pleasure watch that reminded me of when I was very young and watching a couple of these romantic movies. So yeah, I enjoy for what it was. And then I watched American Fiction. This is a brilliant movie. I loved American Fiction, and you follow this writer who basically has very strong morals, and in order to mock the current published industry, he creates this fake, very cliche gangster man that writes this memoir, which is all made up, and people go crazy for it. And so he needs to resolve a lot of family issues while trying to deal with this fame that all started as a joke, and is a commentary on the current situation and how the publishing industry is exploiting that and all the absurd things that come with it. So I really appreciated the commentary, but really found also the movie, the way it was directed and done, and the acting, absolutely compelling to watch. So American Fiction was a very big win of this season, and I will rewatch this over and over again. The last thing I watched and really enjoyed was the prequel to Hunger Games, The Song of Snake and Ballads, Weather, I don't know. I did not read the books. I didn't read any book apart from The Hunger Game, I believe. I'm not the biggest fan of The Hunger Game. I think when The Hunger Games came out, I had read Battle Royale, either before or soon after. And Battle Royale was clearly like it was the original Hunger Games, if you want. And so I always found, I don't know, that those kind of books and movies do not hold much surprise for me, because clearly they're gonna kill each other. Our main protagonist is gonna survive in a way or the other, and that's the story. You're gonna have a bunch of people that need to kill each other, and of course it's your main protagonist who's gonna make it to the end. So if you take away the element of surprise, I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I enjoyed the movies of Hunger Games, but because again it became kind of a visual, entertaining action movie, more from the plot itself. And what I liked about this prequel is that although there are the Hunger Games, they are in there, they are not the whole movie. The movie starts way before and then it goes past, and I found it quite entertaining. I found it also fascinating, the character of Snow, and I loved what he says in the end when everything concludes. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it says something that's very quotable. So yeah, I liked the characters and I liked where this is going. I would love to know, like, having a bit of like a sequel of these, but I don't think that's what's gonna happen. I think she's writing another book, but it's gonna be about other characters. I also initially I thought that Snow had created the Hunger Games, and instead he didn't. So I found out a lot of information basically just watching this movie. No, I won't read the book, I don't think so. It's not in my plans, but I will definitely watch another movie when it comes out. It's quite entertaining. And I'm gonna also mention though a big disappointment, because I think I should mention it, right? We are talking about the highlight of the seasons, but I'm gonna kind of give you a sneak peek of what I didn't like. I watched True Detective season 4, Night Country, which has the coolest name ever for a TV show, Night Country. Love it. However, I didn't like this season. I thought it was too supernatural, and it was done in a way that, despite all how it all wraps up, I really didn't like the case. I found myself quite disappointed in the case. The atmosphere was definitely there. However, I also didn't care that much about the character of Jodie Foster, which is such a shitty thing to say, because she's clearly got a lot on her plate. But while with other True Detective seasons I had clicked and connected with the characters and I was invested in their own stories, I found the character of Jodie Foster quite annoying. And I know that it was supposed to be annoying, but it never kind of got better. I found her character growth not satisfactory. Overall, the case was a bit like odd. It was very supernaturally until the very end, and then I thought, oh, that's it, that's what happened. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it didn't work for me. I will definitely continue on and watch the next season if it comes out. However, overall, if I have to kind of judge the 4th season of True Detective, which I adore, like True Detective season 1 is one of my favorite TV shows ever, then I would put probably season 3 and then season 2 and then finally this season. And I filmed these in winter thinking, oh, I need to remember to mention some of the podcasts I've been listening to, and then I think I didn't. So sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I don't believe I am. I believe I never mentioned my podcasts, my favorite podcasts. And there are kind of 3 of them that I really want to share with you and I really loved. So I'm gonna start with The Rest is History. The Rest is History is a history podcast. And I initially came across these podcasts because I was going on Spotify and it came up like there was the story. They were doing like 6 episodes or 5 episodes on the story of the Titanic. And the Titanic is a movie that changed my life. It's a story that I still find like so creepily fascinating and dreadful, and every time I hear Titanic, like, you get my attention. So I immediately listened to these, and they took 6 episodes of recounting the story of the Titanic, but also took a lot of time in telling us about how the Titanic came to be, who financed the project, why it was financed, who were the people that boarded the Titanic, from the richest to the more poor. They really gave an in-depth, step-by-step story of the Titanic, starting from way before and going a bit, after the Titanic and the survival, and I fell in love with this. I love that they are very, like, they're friends. You can say they're friends. They do make a lot of jokes, and at the right time I found it quite hilarious, and I just find their voices very soothing, and also like the amount of information, it was so compelling. So then what I did is that I went back and listened to from the first episodes. Now the first episodes are different because they focus on one topic for one episode, like 45 minutes, 49 minutes, and then they move on. So I am making my way through it, and some episodes I really enjoy, some other episodes I'm a bit less interested in, but overall I can't wait for when they kind of progress a bit and they get into like a more in-depth story. I, for example, listened to another 5 episodes on Lutero, and I didn't know all of those informations, and this is a modern historian and an ancient history historian coming together and discussing history. And I just loved some of the discussions. I also found them, just following them and hearing them speak, very entertaining. So yeah, if you love history, the rest is history. It's a very good one. I must mention Ologies. Ologies is brilliant, guys. I have listened to maybe 100 episodes by the time I'm sitting down here filming. Ologies is by Ali Ward, who is this absolutely lovely, hilarious host. And she created this podcast, and she's interviewing, basically traveling across America, if not the whole world, experts in stuff. Like, ologies can be anything. I think the first one was, for example, volcanology. So she goes and speaks with an expert about volcanoes. I had episode about fungi. I listened to an episode about sharks. I am currently listening to an episode about our eyes. And I learned so bloody much. Every time I listen to one episode, I have the best of times because she's hilarious. Even things that you think, bees. The episode about bees blew my mind. What is honey, where it comes from, why the bees behave in a certain way, what is about the queen bee, and I just love it. Love it, love it. I never skipped any episodes because that's how much I love it, and I am generally trying then to come home and tell my family, oh, that's how the cataract operation, operation when you get your cataract done, that's how it works. And people are like, what? So it's giving you the kind of trivia knowledge that you can kind of then bounce back to your friends or use it in conversation with your friends. It's making me so much cleverer just by listening in, and I love it. I love it. And it's also something that I think it's quite you can listen to it over and over again in order to really absorb information, because there is a lot that's shared in an hour. I learned about space, about Mars, about snails, and yeah, it is such a good podcast. If you like to know a bit about everything and have a very informative yet funny hour of your time, check out Ologies. I love it. And then the last one is for us passionate about true crime. As you can see, I've got a whole crime section. God, wait, these two shelves are all crime. So you can see why I would reach out for a true crime podcast. Listen, guys, serial. If you like true crime, politics as well, and contemporary themes of what's going on in a more political criminology side of things, you can't skip Serial. Serial, I listened to. The first 3 seasons are hosted by the same woman, and now season 4 is currently coming out. I don't know what by the time I'm filming this if all episodes are out, but let me tell you what the seasons are about, because you know why I love it so much. So in the first season, she focuses the whole podcast on resolving this crime where this boy was accused of killing his girlfriend, and he denies it. He says, I'm innocent. And this is a very popular case in America at the time. It's a very divisive case. And what she does is she interviews him, and you can hear him in the podcast. She interviews all the friends of the girl, of him, and she really tries to put together back this case. Did he do it? Did he not do it? And initially I was like, how can you fill so many hours with this case? But I could have listened to another 10 hours because I was so fascinated by the case. Season 2 must be probably my favorite one, because season 2, she talks about this guy, Bo, I don't remember the name. But this is a guy who used to be in the army. He was deployed to Afghanistan, and one day he walks out of base and he's captured by the Taliban, and he's kept the longest recorded hostage situation that happened with the Taliban. And he eventually came home, so he was released after years of captivity. He talks about what happened, why he walked out, and what happened when he was under, the Taliban rule, and how he got free, and how the media then, and how America reacted to him being back home. You don't hear him direct, you hear him through, I think he doesn't speak directly with her, but they were supposed to do a movie with his story. So he talks with the movie director, of a potential movie director, and I think you got those audio in of him talking with the movie director, if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on this. So he tells his story, and the movie director then accepts to speak with the host of the podcast, and they put together some of the most compelling true crime I've ever listened to. I could not stop listening to this podcast. Season 3, it's probably the one that at the moment has been my least favorite, but again I would still suggest it 100%. She spends a few weeks in a Baltimore court of law, and she looks at all the cases that come through. And this is an area that's very much deprived, with a lot of racism still happening, and she looks at these people going through the justice system, how what kind of sentences are they getting, how the judges speaks about them, how the lawyer speaks about them, and how themselves speak about their crime and why they're there. And you really have this kind of, at the end, you really have this picture of the people passing through the criminal justice system in an everyday court. So yeah, she spends the day in court and talks about the cases that come through. And again, so fascinating. Like, it's a window into a community that I would never have accessed otherwise. And now, the 4th season that's coming out, it's about, if I'm correct, I'm waiting for the whole episodes to be out, because then I'm gonna binge listen to these. She's looking at people that were working at Guantanamo Bay. And I don't know anything else apart from this is about Guantanamo Bay, what happens there stays there, right? But not so much. She's now been able to have a look inside of Guantanamo Bay and the inner workings. And I got shivers on the idea of waiting to listen to this and find out more about those kind of things that you always hear about in movies or in the media, but you really never get an insight. The topics of this serial, I just love it. Just so you're aware, they did other seasons where she's not the host, other people are talking about different cases, or like every season has a different case in it, but it's not hosted by her. And to be fair, I did give up on those because I love her, the host, and her stories, and how she puts together this podcast and she recounts things so much that the others didn't stand up to it. I might try again, but as of now, Serial, the first 3 seasons, and let's see, I'm gonna get back to you on how much I loved season 4. Those are my 3 favorite podcasts. If you have any recommendations for me in terms of podcasts, please leave them down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to know what are your highlights of the season? Podcasts, movies, TV shows, whether it's the case, books or comics. If you are new, I would love for you to subscribe, join the small community. Leave a like or a comment if you can, that's how you can support the channel. Go well everyone, and I'll see you next time. Ciao!